Examination. So um, let us assume I will show you a typical picture of a histopathology lab. So these are the things that may present in a histopathology lab. It has what you're observing in this picture. You can see a shelf, and this shelf has many glass jars. It has some reagents. It has some tincture iodine. Then it has some racks, and it has something like a microscope or something you have, right? So let us see what are the instruments present in a lab, especially for gross examination. So your first experiment is demonstration of instruments used for dissection. Dissection. So when I say dissection, this is always meant for gross examination. What instruments we required for a gross examining a specimen, a biopsy specimen. So say for example, I got a piece of an organ, and what I'm going to observe. To observe this organ, what instruments I required. Okay, 1 second, I need to update the PPT actually. I made a small, I have to add one more thing. 1 second, students. I know it's annoying, but please. Ruler, I want to add ruler. Mm. Usually ruler only. Mm. Actually, I didn't add it. I have to. Mm. Okay, so demonstration of instruments. So what instruments we require for cross examination? Now, in the cross examination, let us assume we got a specimen. I hope everyone paying attention, right? Is everyone listening to me, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, thank you. Fine. So coming to the gross examination, first students, say for example, we got a uterus sample. So we got a gross specimen. So this is the specimen. Okay, let us assume this is the specimen we received. So what we can identify in this specimen means, first of all, we know that this is a uterine sample, that it looks like a uterus only. So it has a fundus of the uterus, it has fallopian tubes, it has cervix, it has a part of internal os, okay, the tip opening of vagina, then it has ovaries, it has fallopian, this fimbriae, and it has even ligament. So these two are ligaments. So these are the parts we have. And also we need to first identify the proper orientation of a specimen. First of all, we need to identify the orientation. That means we need to keep the uterus in its orientation, in its proper orientation. So this is the anterior view of the uterus. Then this is the posterior view of the uterus. This is the superior view. This is the inferior view. So we should have a knowledge on basic orientation of the sample that we are collecting in the lab. How you will know the orientation of a sample? When you know basics in anatomy. If you know basics in anatomy, like anatomy of liver, pancreas, heart, spleen, uterus, then only you can able to identify the specimen, right? So first of all, the technician must have a knowledge on anatomy. First of all, he should able to identify the proper orientation of the organ. Since it is a very straightforward organ like uterus, it is easy for you to identify the orientation. But think, if we get a biopsy of a testis, we got a one testicular biopsy to the sample, and we need to identify whether it is a right testis or left testis? If it is left testis, and what is its anterior portion and what is its posterior portion? What are the borders of this testis? What is the medial aspect of the testis? What is the lateral aspect of the testis? What are the associated structures present to this testis? So you must have a solid knowledge, a good knowledge on anatomy. Unless and until uh, having anatomical knowledge, you can't work in pathology labs, especially in histopathology lab. So first thing is our problem. We must able to identify the proper orientation of the tissue. So this, for proper orientation, we didn't require any equipment. Just by our knowledge and our vision, we can identify the orientation. So this is, you need to identify the orientation. Then after identifying the sample, now you will go with other measurements. I will tell the measurements. Here in this picture, what I was trying to show is, here I cutted this specimen. I cutted this organ into two pieces. After cutting the organ into two pieces, after cutting only, then I will know interior status of the tissue. Is it fatty? Is it myxoid? Is it solid? Is it calcified? Is it necrosis? Is it a, what is the texture of the cut surface? We need to give a description of the cut surface also. Okay. After cutting the tissue, what you felt? Is it too much very soft to cut? Is it hard to cut? Have you felt any grains or some debris like thing during the cut surface? Or is it myxoid? Is it necrosized? Necrosized means is it decomposed? So you need to give a description of the cut surface also. So how you will give description of cut surface? First of all, you need to cut the tissue. You need to cut the tissue into two pieces. In order to cut the tissue, you need surgical blades. Only with the help of surgical blades, you can able to cut the tissue into two parts. Now, there is one major problem, students. The problem is both your hands. You are the only one person working in the pathology lab, and both of your hands has gloves, and you cutted the tissue. When you are cutting the tissue, what happened? Some blood may spill, some fluids may leak. By the way, tissue will come with in the formalin solution. Formalin solution is very volatile solution. It will have a very pungent smell. Once we are removing tissue from the formalin solution, our eyes will burn. The formalin solution is very fumigated actually. Our eyes will start getting irritating. So we will get so much fumes. So how can I tell about formalin gas? Formalin solution will have fumes like if you cut an onion, how you will feel, students? Your eyes will start burning, right? Similarly, if you expose to the fumes of the formalin, you will get irritation. So this formalin fumes is one problem. That is why, and also when we are removing the tissue from the container and keeping on the table, this tissue will start oozing the liquids. It will start oozing the formalin liquid, and this liquid will spill everywhere in the lab, or it will spill in the working bench. This water will start draining in the working bench, and it won't be nice. So that is why we always need to use a working station or a table. Okay, we should have a cutting table. On this cutting table, um, on this cutting table, in the edges of this cutting table, it should have drainage like system. Just like your house top roof, you will have in the edges, you will have this water draining small drainage pipes, right? Similarly, this cutting board should have a borders with water holding tubings. So even if you are cutting the tissue, the fixture to the fluids will be drained into the side of the cutting board. So we need to use a cutting board. That is one instrument. And to cut the tissue, we need a surgical blade. That is one instrument. Then third one is, real problem is this one. Both of your hands are wet. Your hands are dirty with all the blood. And you need to write the description of the cut surface. You need to give a description to the cut surface. How you can write something when your hands are wet? What to do? That is why in the histopathology lab, we have dictating tools, dictating machine. So what is this dictating machine means? It will have a mic which is connected to some board or anywhere. Okay, we will have a mic, either we can keep in the earpiece or somewhere. Then in the bottom near our foot, we will have three pedals. We will have like just like a car pedals, we will have three pedals. um, if you click one pedal, it will record the session. If you click another pedal, it will stop the session. If you click another pedal, it will be saved. So we have a this a dictating tool. So with the help of this dictating machine, we can able to record what we are seeing. So just we will voice record whatever we are seeing. And how we can activate the command? We can activate command by pressing our foot against the button. It has that mechanism. Okay. So this is called dictating tools. So dictating tools will help us to uh, accurately describe what we are seeing in the sample. So that is one instrument, dictating tool. Okay, recording instrument. A recording instrument is one tool. Then let us see what other tools we require. And obviously we need to measure the size of the tissue. We need to measure the dimensions of the tissue, how much length, how much breadth, how much depth and thickness of the tissue. For that purpose we must use scale or ruler. So ruler will help us in measuring the dimensions of the tissue. Then we need to measure the weight of the tissue. Weight of the tissue will be measured by weighing machine. So we need weighing machine. Again, instruments I'm saying, first we need a cutting table, we need blade, then we require a dictating tools to record whatever we are seeing. Then we require a ruler, a ruler to measure the dimensions of the tissue, and we require a weighing machine to measure the weight of the biopsy sample. Okay. So yeah, and also nowadays we are getting this computerized working station, and obviously we require a 24 hours water supply basin. So after cutting the tissue, if it started leaking any fluids, immediately we need to wash the tissue, wash the organ under a water. So for that purpose, we have this readily available sink. So this cutting table is connected to this sink. So immediately we can wash the tissue and we can get rid of the debris. So this instrument is called working station. Whatever I said so far, all these things present in this working station. And also working station is equipped with a specialized lighting system to give a proper lighting on the specimen. Working station will have shelves, non-movable solid shelf will present to the working station. So these shelves will help us to keep any fixative solutions, reagents, everything like formalin, alcohols, xylene solutions, paraffin wax, everything can be kept in these shelves. So even shelves are important in histopathology lab. Then another thing is, I said right, this when we are removing this tissue from the fixative solution, it will have that fumes, that vapors, very irritating vapors. These vapors will cause our eyes to burn. That is why this grossing station will have a negatively pressurized air. So this will suck the air, actually it will exhaust the air. So through the specimen the air will go inside. So all the formalin fumes, formalin vapors, all these volatile vapors will be uh, sucked out. It will be, how can I say other than sucked out? It will be evacuated. It will be evacuated by the system. We have a negatively pressurized air. This air will remove all the fumes from the system. So that air will flow from here actually. On the grill, if you see here, this is slightly slanted like this. This is the cutting table, and here you can see a slant portion like this. So we are cutting here, and it has a slant surface. On this slant surface, it has many holes, and these holes it will have a negatively circulating air. So whatever air present in this sample, these fumes will be um, uh, sucked back by the system. Okay, it will be it will take the fumes. So this system is available to this working station or grossing station. And also whatever fluids that has been drained into the sink, these fluids won't connect to the regular drainage system. Rather than these fluids will be filtered and they are attached to a separate biomedical waste bins. Whatever fluids that are oozed from the biopsy specimens, these fluids will be separately collected by the working station, and these fluids need to be treated properly and they need to be discarded properly. So those systems are available. And also we require many very specialized blades, scissors, everything is required for gross examination. So yeah, so grossing room. So there are certain parameters that are required for grossing room. Grossing room should have a proper ventilation. Grossing room should have proper space. Grossing room floor should be slippery proof. It should not be so much smooth. It should not be slippery. Grossing room should have a exhaust fans. Even if any fumes are coming from the specimen, those fumes will be exhausted via ventilation. Okay, exhaust fans in the grossing room. Then let us see some basic responsibilities and equipment. Okay, first let us see some basic responsibilities of a technician for gross examination. So the first one is, I said right, first you need to properly identify the orientation of the specimen. So let us assume we got this specimen. Okay, we got this specimen, and first thing what we need to do, we need to identify its proper identification and orientation. You need to identify whether it is the liver tissue or not, whether it is a tongue tissue or not, because they have already given in the requisition form. I sent you a tissue of lung. Then we must able to identify the lung and we must able to identify the orientation of the biopsy specimen. Then at any cost, we should not process unlabeled samples. Unlabeled specimens should not be processed. If there is no labeling to the sample, don't process it. Okay, that is another important thing. Then if you find any difficulties in identifying the orientation of the organ, if you are unable to identify whether it is a right kidney or left kidney, whether it is a right testis or left testis, or if you are unable to guess what is the specimen, then don't hesitate to call the doctor. Better immediately consult the referred physician or surgeon and ask what is the orientation. Sir, have you sent me a left kidney or right kidney? If they said left kidney, fine, then you can proceed. So if you have any struggling, if you're struggling with any identification in the orientation of the specimen, then immediately consult the doctor or surgeon. Then technician should be aware of anatomy. As I said, all technicians must have a basic knowledge on anatomy of all organs of our body. Unless and until you are knowing the knowledge on anatomy, you can't identify the specimen. Okay, so technician must have the basic knowledge on anatomy. Then you technician will, our grossing technician or technologist, we will go for recording the following features. First is type of the specimen. Is it fresh? Is it decomposed? Is it necrosized? You will write the type of the specimen. Then you will write structures included to the specimen. What structures the specimen has? Whether if they said uterus, whether it has fallopian tube, whether it has ligament, whether it has ovary, whether it has fimbriae, whether it has cervix, whether it has fundus. You need to write all the structures included to the specimen. Then you need to measure the dimensions of the specimen. How you will measure dimensions? With the help of a scale. So with the help of a ruler, you will measure the dimensions of the organ. Then you must identify the borders of the specimen also. Not only measuring the dimensions but also borders, and these borders will help us to identify anterior, posterior, or the surfaces of the organ. So that is why you must record the borders of the specimen, how many borders present to the specimen. Then you must write the weight of the specimen, shape of the specimen, color of the specimen, surgical markings of the specimen. Surgical marking means surgeon will already send us he will cut one area in the specimen. That means he's telling that in that area we need to do the section cutting. So we need to identify the surgical markings in the specimen. Okay, surgical markings should be identified. And what else we need to identify? Then we need to take a gross photographs of the specimen. We must take a photograph of the specimen. Then we must cut the specimen. After cutting the specimen, we need to describe the cut surface of the specimen. We need to give a description to the cut surface of the specimen. Is it solid? Is it cystic? Is it myxoid? Is it degenerated? Is it calcified? Is it necrosized? Is it bony? Is it cartilaginous? You need to write the description of the cut surface of the specimen. Okay. Then if you got a large specimen, if you got a very big specimen, then you must cut the specimen into small bits, 1 cubic millimeter sized small pieces you can cut. Okay. Then they are also saying that these small bits can be kept in individual cassettes. Individual cassettes you can keep some 2 to 3 bits and you can go for processing. Okay. Then if the specimen is very large, we need to take the portion where there is a abnormality. If it is a very large specimen, then we need to collect the sample where there is an abnormality in the tissue. Okay. So if the specimen is small, the whole specimen can be used for study. If the specimen is very large, then only the damaged portion can be taken as a sample for studying histopathological purposes. Then that's it. Then we have something called calcification, decalcification. If the specimen has any calcified tumors, if the specimen has any bony like things, then the specimen must be subjected to decalcification process. Only after decalcification we should go for tissue processing. Unless and until you are performing decalcification, you should not process calcified tissues. Okay, that calcified tissues can be identified either by taking an X-ray of the tissue or with the help of many chemical tests. We have many approaches to identify the calcified. So with those methods we can able to identify. We have a separate experiment called methods of decalcification of tissue. In there I will discuss in detail about this decalcification. So these are the some general principles for grossing technician. Okay, and that's it. And also upon doing this X-ray, we can also able to identify any foreign bodies present in the specimen, like metal chips, foreign bodies, sutures, or anything present means those can be identifiable. Okay, so that's it. So these are the principles of grossing. So I will tell in a nutshell. So first you need to identify the orientation. Then if you are unable, unlabeled specimen should not be processed. If there is difficulties in identifying the orientation, then you should call the surgeon. Then the technician must be aware of basic anatomy of the tissue. Then the technician must go for examining the following characters like type of the specimen, structures included in the specimen, dimensions of the specimen, weight of the specimen, shape, color, surgical margins, borders of the specimen. And you need to take a gross photograph of the specimen. You need to cut the specimen and you need to describe the description of the cut surface of the specimen. If you got a large sample, then only the damaged part should be taken as a specimen for tissue processing. If it is a small thing, then you can use entire organ for tissue processing. Okay, so that's it. So these are the some basic principles for a gross examination that are necessary for a lab technologist. Now, you know all these things. Now, so here you can see this specimen has been, nowadays we are getting digitalized this measurements also. So all you can do is it's a special software. If you take a picture, it will give the dimensions of the specimen. It will tell how much length, breadth, depth, everything. All measurements are giving digitally nowadays. But usually we will go with manual measurement of the specimen with the help of ruler, with the help of a graded scale, steel scale. So then we also cut the specimen. After cutting the specimen, we also given you the gross, the cut surface description, and we are also telling about the orientation, structures included anterior portion, anterior organelles, posterior tissue structure, superior, inferior, oblique, medial, lateral. Everything need to be given. Okay, everything need to be wrote. So then, so these are the few important things that we need to do in the gross examination. For this gross examination, what instruments we required? What are the instruments we are using for gross examination? That is actually our practical. So instruments used for gross examination are grossing station. So this is grossing station. So grossing stations will allow us to perform examining the surgical biopsies in to cut the surgical biopsies. So grossing station has a table. This table has a cutting table. It has a attached water system. It has a sink, and this water has been collected in a dustbin. It has a computer. It has a keyboard, and it has even a recording equipment to measure. It has a light. It has a it has a ventilation to exhaust the vapor fumes of the tissue. It has a shelf to keep the fixatives and solutions, and it has all the things necessary for examining a tissue. For whatever things we require for cross examination, everything is available in gross station. If our lab don't have gross station, then we can keep individual equipment. Let us see other things. Then we need a surgical table. So this is a grossing cutting table. So on this cutting table, we can able to cut it. In this cutting table, at the center, actually this table is like this, students. Whatever, wherever you keep the specimen, all water will be drained into the center of this table. So it is designed in such a way where water will be drained into the center of table. If not, we have another type of tables where water will be drained in the borders of the table. So this is a cutting table. So dissecting tables, they are also called dissecting tables, and dissecting tables has some important properties. Their legs should not be slippery. Their legs should have a rubber grips because already the floor is wet. So they should not be they should be rigid. They should be slippery proof. They should not slipper during the cutting. So these are the some characters that it need, and depending upon the size of the specimen, we need to select the size of the cutting board. Larger specimen, larger table, smaller sample, smaller tables. Okay, so this is all about the cutting table. Then we have shelves. So the idea of shelves is to reduce space, proper space management, and for keeping all reagents, we will need a shelves. So there is nothing much about shelves. So in the shelves, we can keep the reagents that are necessary for tissue processing, like reagents for fixation, dehydration, clearing, infiltration, cutting, everything. Okay. So we need a rigid shelves in the lab. Then we requires a a wash station. This is called wash station. Okay, grossing wash station. So usually, once the specimen coming into the lab, if the specimen is contaminated with any debris or any debris, then this specimen will be washed in this table. This table will have a holes. By the way, students, the same tables we will use for cutting human bodies also. Even in mortuaries, we will use these same tables for cutting bodies. I have seen. I kept a body on this table and I have cutted the human bodies actually. So these are not only for histopathology. We will also use the same equipment for mortuaries, same equipments for surgeries, same equipments for wherever we are dealing with human bodies or pathological tissues. Okay, so this is called a gross station. Then what is this? I said right, automatic recorder. So this is dictating equipment actuated by a pedal. Dictation equipment actuated by a pedal. So this dictating equipment we can use for dictating purposes. So it will have three clutch or gear like pedals. Okay, if you press this pedal, you will go to the next recording. If you press this pedal, you will start recording the session. If you press this pedal, it will review or replay the recording. So it is attached with a mic and it is in connection with a computer actually. So this is called dictation equipment, which is actuated by a pedal. So the advantage of using this one is we need not to touch the computer. We need not to contaminate the computer or a keyboard. Without even using our hands, we can able to record whatever we are seeing in the lab. Nowadays, we are getting an additional buttons like they will also turn on the cameras and camera will start recording them. Nowadays, we got this what is this smart glasses also. So the specs itself having camera. With just a voice command, you can record. I think Facebook recently released, already Google released Google Lens. So all these are available nowadays in the labs. Okay, these are dictating equipment. Then we require a transcribing softwares. So what is transcribing software means? Whatever we are recording, that will be automatically typed in the computer. You know, your OK Google actually. You are just speaking with your phones. Nowadays, this is a routine technology. But back in the days, we have a dedicated whole computer system just for recognizing our voice, just for conversion of voice to text. So these are called transcribing equipment. So this transcribing equipment will uh, uh, they will type whatever we are saying in the live. So we need these equipment. Then we need various types of surgical items like scalpel blades, scissors, and forceps. Forceps are for holding the specimen. Scissors are for cutting the specimen. Scalpels are for cutting in detail small bits of the specimen. So these are the scalpel, scissors, and their uses. I need not to say much. You already know, right? Then probes. What are these probes? Probes mean, students, they are flexible wires or flexible needles that can be induced into the tissue. Sometimes we will get blood vessel, and inside the blood vessel blood may be clotted. We need to clear the clotted blood vessel. The lumen of the blood vessel need to be cleared. For that purpose we can insert a probe, a steel wire, and we can able to clean the blood vessel. So this is called probes. And if they are flexible, then they are called as malleable probes. So malleable probes can be used for clearing or dissecting the tissue in the gross examination. Then we require a ruler for obviously to measure the dimensions of the tissue or the biopsy organ. We require scalpel blades to cut the section tissues. We require long blades to cut very large specimens like brain, etc. Then we require fixing pins. They are called okay, pins for fixing. So the idea of the purpose of these pins is to hold the the necessary portion of the tissue open. So other portions of the tissue won't fall on the area where we want to do the dissection. So these pins will hold tissue very tightly. So they will act as a grip. They will provide grip so that we can cut the tissue in wherever we want. So these are the things. And we need a cork boards. Cork boards means these are like a notice boards only. Okay, if you keep tissue in this board, you can able to print these pins so the tissue won't move at all. So you can cut the tissue. Okay, we can also use cork boards. So these are the typical instruments we will use in gross examination. So the instruments including the instruments used in gross examination are grossing station, cutting boards, shelves for keeping the containers, working station or washing station, then recording equipments, transcribing equipments, scalpels, scissors, forceps, blades, probes, scale, long blades, fixing pins, cork boards, and there is one more instrument missing here, which is weighing machine to measure the weight of the specimen. So these are the equipment that are necessary in a gross examination. So this is all about your first experiment, students. If you see the experiment number 1, demonstration of instruments for dissection. So now you know all the instruments that are necessary for demonstration for dissection or for gross examination. Right? Is everything clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell me, students. Um, yeah. Tell me the steps in gross examination then. First thing is, what is the first thing we will do in gross examination? Steps in gross examination, not equipment. Sorry. Hmm.
Identification, orientation.
Very good. Orientation. Then we will identify the orientation of the specimen. We should not process unlabeled specimens. We should able to identify the associated structures of the specimen. Then what we need to record?
Difficulty in orientation, consult the doctor.
Yes, if there is
Technician
difficult,
should be aware of the anatomy.
very good,
Sample should be inspected and recorded for type of the specimen,
very good.
dimension, weight, shape,
Dimension, weight, shape,
surgical marking.
surgical markings, borders. Then what are the others? Description of the cut surface description. Then photograph of the uh, biops of the organ. Then large specimen means only the only the infected part need to be collected. If it is small specimen, then entire specimen can be used for cross examination. And very good, Parul. Only Parul listening. So equipment like gross station, cutting boards, shelves, wash station, then draining computer systems, scissors, forceps, scalpels, disposable blades, long knives, fixing pins, cork boards, weighing machine, and malleable probes can be used. So these are the equipment that we can use for gross examination. So I hope this is enough for you, right? So now you got a clear picture out of
Yes, sir.
gross examination, right? So now you are feeling
Yes,
like
sir.
you are in a histopathology lab. Very good, students. Okay. It will be really interesting when you are working in histopathology. Fine, in the labs actually. Really interesting. Then your second experiment is common antiseptics, disinfectants, and pesticides used in tissue culture laboratory. What are the common antiseptics, disinfectants, and pesticides used in tissue culture lab? Now listen. For example, in the histopathology, sometimes we will get specimens like this. So these are dead fetuses. That means these babies have died even before birth. Okay, during pregnancy itself, some babies will die, or immediately after birth, some babies will die, and those babies will be preserved in the labs to understand the reason of their death. Now, if we preserve them properly in the fixative solution, they will look clear like this. But there is a high chance of getting contamination. Keep in mind, fixatives only okay. Fixatives, hmm, uh, fine. So, sorry, students. Um, okay. Fixatives only prevent tissue from decomposing. Keep in mind, they will prevent tissue from decomposing. But fixatives have a rich amount of water. 99.6% of fixative will have water. And this water is a best source for growing of bacteria, many microorganisms. If this fixative solution get contaminated, means our tissue specimen will be damaged. So this is a contaminated tissue specimen. Here the hand has been almost destroyed. So that is why we need to add certain antiseptics, disinfectants, and pesticides in this fixative solution. Especially if we are going to preserve them for a long time, then we must add certain disinfectants in this solution. So most commonly used antiseptics and disinfectants are ethanol 50 to 70%, isopropanol 50 to 70%, formaldehyde 8%, tincture iodine 2%, chlorine gas or even silver nitrate can be used as a anti. So these are combination of antiseptics and disinfectants. So we can use these, we can add these things to the fixative solution so that the solution won't get contaminated by any microorganisms. For example, ethanol. Ethanol, its action is it denatures the proteins and solubilizes the lipids. So it can be used on skin tissues. So skin tissues can be disinfected, or ethanol is antiseptic, so you can use for skin tissues. Skin tissues can also be preserved by using isopropanol. So the idea is same. They will denature the proteins, so lipids will become solubilized. So due to protein denaturation, no microorganism can utilize the tissue. Then formaldehyde. Formaldehyde will react with NH2 groups in the tissue and SH and COOH groups, carboxyl groups, and they will prevent the tissue from decomposing. So formaldehyde is a very good disinfectant, kills endospores. Bacterial endospores can be killed with formaldehyde. Then tincture iodine inactivates proteins, so it can be used as antiseptic on skin specimens. Chlorine gas will be acted as a strong oxidizing agent, and this chlorine gas can be used for uh, keeping drinking water sterile, disinfectant drinking water, and for general disinfectant we can use chlorine gas. And silver nitrate can be used for the antiseptic used in eyes and newborns. Okay, so these are the common antiseptics and disinfectants that we will use in a histopathology lab, and these are their actions. So these disinfectants will be added in the formalin, okay, in the fixative solution, so that the tissues can remain uh, viable. The tissues can remain healthy for a long time. They looks proper for a long time. See here, this is a foot, this is hand, these are hands, but they are looking still like a, a newly cutted or recently cutted hands, because they has been properly preserved in the formalin solution by addition of certain antiseptics and disinfectants. So that is why we will use certain antiseptics and disinfectants, and this is the purpose. The purpose is to maintain uncontaminated healthy museum specimens, tissue specimens in the lab. So this is all about second experiment. For second experiment, this table is enough, students. Okay, maybe I will give only one experiment on how to prepare 70% ethanol. Preparation of any one disinfectant we can study in the lab in the next class. So this is enough for today, students. So in today's lecture, we discussed about two experiments. First experiment is grossing instruments used in histopathology, like gross station cutting board, shells, workstation, sink, dictating equipments, computer systems, scissors, scalpels, blades, forceps, malleable probes, knives, and fixing pins and weighing machine. Then we discussed about some common disinfectants and antiseptics used in histopathology, such as ethanol, isopropanol, formaldehyde, tincture iodine, chlorine, silver nitrate. So this is enough, students. In our next lecture, in the next lab, we can proceed with third and fourth experiments. In the next lab, let us discuss about reception and labeling of histological specimen. How you will receive a histopathology specimen and how you will label a histopathology specimen. That I will discuss in the next lab. Okay. So thank you very much, students. Let me
Thank you,
download
sir.
you. Yeah.
Thank you,
So if
sir.
you have any doubts, you can ask me. If not, I will end this session. Can I end this session?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
Sir,
very much. Yes, you can. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir.
Yes, students.